It's Saturday, 5 p.m., time for yet another webinar on education from the Hindu. This week we are looking at study and work abroad, specifically applied to Germany. There's been so much news about the US, Canada, visa issues, universities not taking students, Indian students getting into trouble, their social media record being scrutinized. And then there's data to show that only about 60% of student visas that are typically given out to Indian students were given out this year. So and Canada has its own sets of problems for Indians. So Indians are looking at aspiring Indian students, people who want to work abroad. They are looking at alternatives, and historically, the alternatives have been the UK and France and Germany, sort of coming fifth. But Germany is increasingly garnering more attention from Indians. For various reasons. There's this image that it's more affordable there to study, and then you can somehow get by. You spend a year there, and then you somehow get by for your living expenses, which is supposed to be the case in America, but doesn't always pan out. And also for other reasons, Germany is, of course, this big image of being very, the home of engineering, high engineering, precision engineering. Some of the best engineering companies are located in Germany. So there is this image, and Indians seem to have some affinity for engineering, natural affinity. So Germany is becoming attractive, but there have been questions. Primarily, it's not an English language speaking nation. So, and there are concerns about how students will fit in, about how they will get jobs. We had a webinar similarly on Japan, which the Japanese government has decided specifically to take in more Indian students and more Indian white collar workers for jobs. Germany too, its ambassador recently, when all the US thing was going on, the big controversies, he tweeted famously saying Germany invites Indians, and he put out some statistics. So we'll look at this year, what are the options for Indians students, perhaps for work also, jobs also. We have a really nice panel that will give you all the details. Feel free to ask questions. Those who've registered and are logging into the webinar, feel free to ask questions. We have Saurabh Arora. He's the University Living. He heads the operations. University Living you need data on universities, foreign universities, so many aspects of studying and in universities abroad. University Living is a go-to place. So he will tell us about, give us the context, how many students go there annually, so on and so forth. Versus, how much increase have been there, and do you see similar prospects continuing into the future? Saurabh, go ahead.
Hi, thanks everyone, and thanks for logging in. I mean, great. If we talk about Germany, they've been on the go. They've been increasing for last 10 years, but last 3 years precisely, they have almost doubled. So to that point, then around 30,000 Indian students used to go to Germany. Now that number is hovering between 50 to 60,000. On a lower side, 50,000. On more restricted, 60,000, and that is almost 4,70,000 students study international students study in Germany. So imagine almost 1/16, 1/6 of or 16% of international students are Indian students at this point in Germany. Another main reason why it's been gaining popularity is yes, one very strong reason that there's a public university which is absolutely zero fees, which is not true. But yes, if you compare with other counterparts, the fees are pretty under control, and then also the kind of outcome the students are getting, whether it's come from employability, whether it comes to of cost of living. So it won't be wrong to say that Germany have ranked top the ranks in last 3 years, and especially when the other countries been more regulated or more stringent about their international student policies. And talking about university living, we are a student managed marketplace wherein we help students find their accommodation and other post admission services once they know which city, which country they'll go. So we cover all the top 12 universities and essays not only Indian students but all the students all across the world.
Thanks for that, Saurabh. I asked Himanshu Chawla. He's with the RWTH, Aachen University, one of the most well-known universities in Germany. Very well-known, very prestigious. Tell us, sir, about the scene there. What is for someone who doesn't know much about Germany? How does the higher education scene operate? What are the main universities? Where do Indians aspire to go to? What would you advise?
Thank you, first of all, to the Hindu and the organizing team for organizing this webinar. And now, talking about Germany as the most sought after, or one of the most sought after destinations for studying, um, there are multiple reasons for it, which are driven by academic excellence, strong industry integration, and stable pathways for employment. The number of Indian students in Germany has grown significantly. And this growth reflects both demand for high quality education and the opportunities that exist beyond classroom. So beyond classroom means that they are also going into the labs, they are going into the industry, they are getting internships, they are having master thesis or PhD thesis in collaboration with industries. So that means also that they will get into the labor market very quickly because they will already have those connections that are required. Uh, Apart from that, what I feel is also important is Germany is home to some of the world's leading public universities. And I would talk about my university, RWTH Aachen University. We are one of the best universities in Europe when it comes to engineering, computer science, AI, data science, automotive, robotics. And increasingly, subjects like these are becoming popular apart from the other subjects which have been there, but they are also now getting more interest from Indian students like management, architecture, healthcare. And the key advantage is that German universities emphasize practice oriented learning with strong collaborations between universities, research institutions like Fraunhofer, Anandi will speak more about it, and industry. Students have access to laboratories, research groups, and internships that I already mentioned, and these things are really important for them to get into labor market. But I would also mention that German language would be necessary for them, not just to take admission, because many courses in masters are in English, but also to get them part-time jobs. If they are living there, they would need that themselves to integrate, and language would play a big role. To get internships, to get into the labor market, this would immensely help them. So my suggestion or my opinion on this would be this, that the topmost education that you get in Germany, but language would help you to get into there, live there, and work there. Thank you.
You're muted.
Yes. So you advise Indian students to learn German,
Yeah.
but it's not a requirement for coursework.
It is.
Not for master courses, but as I said, when collaboration with industry happens, German language would be important for them, and it will always give them an edge uh, in comparison to students who won't. So I would say that German language is important, and if you're living in that country, why not learn the language? It is always good for you, for your CV, for whatever, for making your career big. I mean, I can speak German, and I know how helpful it has been for my career as well as when I go to Germany. It makes my way so easy there.
Okay.
Can
No,
I can I come in
when should
here?
they?
Can I come in here with the language part, if it's fine?
Yeah, yeah. Go ahead, sir.
So I would say, that most of the non-English countries, it's good to have to learn that local language. But in Germany, as per my experience, if you're looking for a employability and an outcome-driven solution, I would say then it's not good to have, much to have. So if you are able to put efforts to learn language for German for your courses, it will definitely give you a big edge.
Okay. I asked, we will get back to this, Himanshu. Maybe everyone can weigh in. Anandi, why don't you tell us? You represent a premier research organization. what are the prospects for research, and what, in your experience, has been Germany?
Very good afternoon to everybody tuning in to this show, and thank you so much to Hindu and the organizers. So, first of all, bringing this topic to spotlight, and secondly, for having me on the show. Just to give you a very quick understanding of the organization that I represent, I head a research organization called Fraunhofer. It is the world's largest applied research ecosystem. We have 76 institutes under the Fraunhofer brand, 35,000 researchers, and an annual volume of about 3.6 billion euros. This is by far the largest innovation ecosystem in the world. And added to that, we have universities like the RWTH and many others from Germany who are part of the ecosystem. And like you just heard from my colleague as well, we work very, very closely with universities and with industry. So our core function is to take the research happening in the universities to the market in the shortest period of time, what you call lab to fab. When you're talking about students coming into Germany, I think one of the key aspects that has been mentioned here is the language. I would underscore that it's important. It's important not only for your education, because even though master courses are in English, for your visa, you're expected to know B2 language, means it's conversational German. And there's a reason behind that stipulation, because typically Germany for very long has been a very homogeneous, inward looking country with, of course, immigration policies, but largely Germanic in nature, just like you have other homogeneous countries like Japan, etc. In these societies, the older people, and they do not speak English. If you're in the market, if you're buying a ticket at the railway station, if you are standing at a bus stop and looking to understand how do I get my next connection, of course you have your Google Maps and other technology today, but people to people connect comes from knowing the language. Secondly, like Himanshu said, if you're looking for internships, the small and medium industry in Germany, which is the vanguard of innovation and technology, they are called tech champs. They typically are family held enterprises where German is the spoken language. So if you are working on the shop floor, you can be sure that 60 to 70% of the people will be speaking German, and even the instruction manual, etc., would be in German. So it makes sense to know that language. And I think Indians anyway speak 3 to 4 languages. I mean, we speak English, mother tongue, plus the local language, plus Hindi, plus whatever. So I don't think it's such a difficult prospect for us to learn one more language, and particularly if it's going to help you in your career and your education. But what you have to really understand is that Germany should not be your list of choices because education is cheap or free. It should be because you want to expose yourself to a completely different way of learning and growing in your profession and your career, because Germany offers you one of the best educational systems, which is 60% handheld work and only 40% theory. So practice is 60% and theory is 40%. And like Himanshu said, you get to work with the best universities while studying, and you're actually already starting to work by the time you're in your second and third year. It's a completely different perspective and a way of learning. So that should be your objective, to look at Germany for higher education or for employment.
Thanks for that. We will talk in depth, or maybe we can continue here with German. I thought we'll cover other aspects and then come to the softer aspects. But why don't we? Okay, let's say I am in my final year of whatever course and I want to study in Germany. When should I start learning German? How long does it take?
Well, a B2 usually would be 1.5 years of German. But I'll give you a concrete example of my daughter. She's studying medicine in Dublin, and she wants to go to either Netherlands or Germany or Switzerland to do a placement. So 1 year back, she already started learning German on Duolingo, and she now gives exams offline because she doesn't have the time to go to classes and learn. So there are many ways of learning German. You don't have to go and sit in a class, but if you have the opportunity, attending a proper class which is run by Goethe Institute, which has multiple centers all over India. 6 months is usually the course for one semester. You would typically need 3 semesters to be able to speak. But there are also intensive courses where on Saturdays, Sundays, weekends, you can learn faster and you may finish in about 2.5 months each semester. So it's completely up to you how to learn. But there are many options today, online, offline, integrated courses, etc.
But the coursework is also in German. Should students know across all universities what is the policy there?
See, when it comes to bachelor courses, I can talk about my university for now. Most of the bachelor courses we have are in German. So, if you want to do bachelor's in Germany at my university, one has to then learn German, and the level would be B2 C1, because you will start studying a course in the language. You will have terminologies in that language, so it's always good to learn it till that level so that you can understand and you can uh, study properly and give your exams properly and excel also. So this is what I feel is important. And when it comes to master courses are in English. Most of the master courses are in English, but again, as I said, and Anandi also emphasized on it, that master courses means also that you will get into collaborations with industry, with your internships, with your thesis, and then you require German because you would work with medium and small size enterprises as well. So language is important. Coursework would be in English if it comes to masters, but when it comes to practice oriented learning, then you would need German.
I would also say that, I've got the data somewhere that there are over 150 universities that even offer bachelor in English. But I'm sure it's not for engineering. It's probably for other disciplines, for liberal arts, etc. But having said that, I think for bachelors from good universities, technical universities, universities like AWTH, RWTH, they would be in German. So you would need to know German. In masters, a lot of universities, the largest of universities, have English as the coursework, as the medium of instruction.
Do Indians go for masters mostly for
Yeah.
A
research?
lot of.
Okay, so it's better that if you are in your um, 1 year before, let's say you're doing a 4 year course, you better start learning German in the third year.
Second itself, I would say it's better to
Second,
start early.
okay,
If you are aware that you're going to Germany, it's better to start early. Second year, you can start slowly getting into the language.
okay. A very key takeaway, you said it, and Himanshu also said it in the discussion, that the bulk of the employers are actually not those big companies, the big multinationals, the big ones. For instance, in America, Microsoft or Google or whoever, they come and recruit lots of people, big engineering companies, GE, and so on. Here, it's a little different. It's these small, medium
Yes.
enterprises, and which are also in the cutting edge as far as technology is concerned, which is very interesting, quite unlike, say, America, that Indians are probably used to. And they are the drivers. So it's most likely that Indians would get jobs there in those small, medium
Absolutely.
industries. So they need, and there it's all 100% German. You better know German to get along to work and to even read manuals and so on. That's a very interesting, important takeaway. But when you go and work in such smaller firms, where you're probably the only Indian there, right? Is that how it is, or how does it work? For instance, you go and work in other companies. I'm always looking at America as a reference, but even in Canada, you have a lot of Indians to handhold you through various stages. But how is
So,
it?
so you get Indian everywhere. Don't worry about that. That's the beauty about being Indian. You will not be alone.
Okay.
So it depends really, See, if I know of a young student who did a placement at Boehringer Ingelheim, which is one of the leading medical companies in Germany, but it was outside of Stuttgart in a small city, and this is typical of these, very tech-driven companies. The entire city belongs to them. There's nothing else except Boehringer Ingelheim there, and so there are not too many people who speak English. And she was definitely, I think, there were just 2-3 Indians there, and I think that's the best way because you are now exposed to learning German, and you have to, and then you're listening and hearing German all the time. You pick it up very fast. It goes really fast. If you have a basic understanding, then taking it from there, being in that environment and constantly hearing, talking, really makes a difference. So you could be in a city like Munich, Berlin, where you could get away completely with English, but you could also be in a city like, say, where Böhringer Ingelheim is close to Stuttgart, or in Offenbach, which is outside of Frankfurt. So there, these you need German. Although Offenbach actually is a very, very pluralistic society and very has a lot of foreigners, but there are outskirts and smaller cities where you won't be able to get away completely with English.
Okay.
I would just like to add something here, and a personal example I would like to give. I did my bachelor's in German studies, but I was not very confident in speaking. Once I landed in Germany, although I was there for a very short stay of 3 months, but after coming back, my confidence was immense. So, as Anandi said, when you are there, you are exposed to it, you are somehow forced to also speak that language. And then, even if you are not confident enough, you would do mistakes, but you would still speak, and then you would learn, and then you would also become fluent. So I think it is, as I said, this will be an advantage for you if you are there in that country to learn the language.
Okay,
Yeah.
we have a relevant question. TB Kapali. He's asking, what is the level of German language proficiency required for somebody thinking of a master's degree?
As I said, it's not to get
B2C1.
into, yeah, it's no, that's for bachelor's what I said for B2C1. And Anandi, you also talked about having B1 at least to just get into Germany. uh, what I would like to say, and this question keeps on coming to me when I go to education fairs, when students come to me and ask, yeah, I need to take admission in university, at, especially for masters, because most of the students would go for masters, and then they ask me what exactly is the language level we would need, and then I actually tell them, I have been repeating this now also in this webinar, that for masters to get admission, you would not require a language certificate, but you would need it for yourself to excel, to get good jobs, to get good internships, to get part-time jobs, which are also required to survive in Germany. And that's what I would say. But certain universities might have certain master courses in German, and then they would have different levels of German certifications that they would require.
But
So, so
it is safe to say that between B2 to C1 is a good, bar to set yourself, irrespective whether there is a stipulation for visa or for admission or not. Because
Yes.
when you do B2 or C1, you are in communicative German. That means you are good enough to speak to people, to get your daily work done. And that is good enough to start with, to go and land up there. And the rest will come when you're in the environment.
so there's no requirement like TOEFL. TOEFL is a requirement. You
It
need to
is
score a certain.
IELTS or TOEFL would be required because the master courses are in English. They have to prove their English language proficiency.
Also, you need to do TOEFL. You need to be proficient in English as well as German. But German is still a recommendation, but you think it's quite necessary.
Yeah.
So what I would
Okay.
say here,
Yeah.
like when you're going to US, Canada, UK, the way you need to manage your finances or prepare your finances. If you're eyeing Germany, your finances are still not that much needed. But if you can invest in your language, if you can invest in your research, and also connect with people who been to Germany. So it's more of a, pre preparation you need to go to do before you go to Germany to be a successful outcome out of that, unlike most of the English speaking countries.
Okay. Let's look at courses now. Saurabh, we will get to fees and expenses, the most important part. But tell us about the courses. What does Germany excel in terms of courses for foreigners? What are they keen on? Where do they want to see more foreign students?
Yeah, probably Himanshu
As
can take that. He
I
must be
am,
answering this left, right, and
yeah,
center.
I am just. I would just like to quote the German ambassador, and he has been talking about STEM subjects. So
Okay.
it is STEM that interests a lot of Indians, and Germany is famous for engineering and technical sciences. And you know, my university, RWJ Chakan University, is also famous for engineering and technical sciences, and we have 2,400 Indian students. It's the maximum number of students and a German
in
university has.
in that Himanshu being humble here, I've read and been told, so Akan is something like IIT of India. I mean, I don't know if I'm over exaggerating, but this is what been the reputation of RWTH Akan in
Yeah,
Germany.
certainly. It's one of the most prestigious, most well-known universities. Yes.
Yeah, and we
They're
work
all in
with,
engineering. These thousands of Indian students, are they all in engineering?
yeah,
Mostly.
almost
Okay.
all of them.
Okay.
And since Saurav mentioned about IITs, we have collaboration with most of the IITs in India, especially IIT Madras. We'll be celebrating next year 60 years of partnership with IIT Madras. 60 years we have been working with them closely on different aspects of innovation and science and technology.
Okay. There is a. I will take this question, although we have some more basics to cover. Sunny R is asking, how much is Germany open to receiving mid-level career professionals, and how one should attempt at it? I know you're primarily education, but I just
No, no,
since you're
it's. Uh, I think there is enough information out there. There has been a lot of media talk about Germany needing 400,000 professionals every year, and there is something called a job card. In German, it's called Chancenkarte, which means that you apply for that, and that allows you to go and just stay in Germany for a year and look for a job. So there is a lot of opportunity for mid-career professionals, but these are skilled professionals. So they are looking at very specific skill sets that Germany really needs at this stage. And the data is out there. It's on the German embassy website. It's on relevant, German websites. They just need to go and look for it. And you can start applying and take the job card and then look for jobs when you're in Germany. You get paid for that 1 year in Germany while you're looking for a job.
what are the skills in demand? What are they looking at? I saw an ad that they need 40,000 nurses and so on.
Yeah, so it's truck drivers, nurses, I mean those kind of white collar job, but also IT professionals and stuff. So there are, at the moment, there is not a very clear wish list of what all professions they need, but definitely semi-skilled labor like truck drivers, train drivers, nurses, but also IT professionals, in engineering professionals, in automobile industry, in other manufacturing industry, etc. Himanshu, you might like to add.
I think you have covered it all. Healthcare, doctors, this is what is also required in Germany. And I think German embassy has been also doing a lot of publicity about it in a way that they would like to welcome Indians, not only for studying, but also for working. And Indians are required in German labor market.
Okay, good news. Ryan Rodriguez, we were to get to it, so he's already asked the question: are the visas easy to get? How about scholarships and admissions in public funded universities? Are private funded courses viable financially? Can you give some info? Thank you. Saurabh, would you like to start?
So again, I'm more of a I'm not a educator, I'm not a academician, if I may say, but just to add couple of point last point and also the question to this answer. See, this and it beautifully what Anandi mentioned, that even truck drivers being considered as a white collar profession. I mean, that just struck me, and I'm diverting a bit. In fact, I was reading somewhere that the jobs of the future will be probably plumber, truck drivers, which is probably because anything which has been done on computers might be replaced by AI, but lots of uh, professionals like nurses or services, plumbers. This is what being considered really high paying jobs in Germany. And now coming back to the the question which you asked, I guess about visas. So I believe, and this is what probably I would love to ask Himanshu to get in. But what I've been hearing that there's a high demand for students want to go to study to Germany, but not lots of students are getting visas. I'm not sure how much true that is, but people are applying. There's a demand for German education now, but because most of the students who are applying to public universities, you know, they are not getting appointments. Is that correct, Himanshu?
I think I have hardly heard of any kind of such issues from the students or prospective students going to RWTH Aachen University. So I can't comment on it. I think one has to ask the German embassy for it.
What about the cost of education? Are most universities public or private, and how does it work? There is this impression it's much cheaper to study there, but what are the basics? What are the numbers?
See, I would just talk about rough numbers. What one could expect is, so there is no tuition fees as such, but you pay a minimum amount for which you also get a semester ticket, you call it, public transportation ticket for the whole state, and which is highly subsidized. You get subsidized tickets for cinema, for theater, for museums, because this is what student discounts are, and they get it on the basis of the ticket that they get, and also for their study material, for library, all those things. It's I think it's around 400 500 euros a semester.
Saurabh, tell us what does you track expenses? What does it take?
So, I mean, rightly mentioned, as I mentioned, that around 500 for a semester ticket for a public university, but for a private, it's probably, will be a bit higher. But if you compare with other non-speaking or English-speaking countries, it's still much cheaper. At time it's cheaper to study in Germany than to study in private university in India. And talk about the post-admission or cost of living expenses. So approximately, I mean, as Ambassador asked that one should show around 12,000 euro per year, which includes your cost of living, your accommodation, your probably a monthly expenses. So if you see what embassy is asking, that at least you should have 1,000 euro per month to finance your education and stay in Germany. Out of which around 40%, 40 to 50% is your accommodation fees. Another probably 200 is your utilities, your day-to-day food, your travel. So yeah, more or less around 600 is a good amount to seek your accommodation. Another 200 for your transportation, your food, and probably 200 is something which probably you should have as a miscellaneous.
Okay, so it's 1,000 euros a month.
More or less, more or less. And
Okay.
it can be cheaper if you're not in probably Munich and Frankfurt, But I would say, and this is what I always recommend and suggest, that please don't go there. That imagine assuming that you go there, you get a job and you finance your education. And this is a very strong point. I always keep emphasizing that global mobility through education and global mobility through immigration are two different things. People get confused and this get abused. But when people are being told that okay, you go there cheaper, there's no fees, you can earn your living. If you are going for education, your intention should be very clear that you are going there for to study and not to earn. Yes, if you are studying well, you're doing well, you learn the language, your your chances of getting a job will be very high. But again, there's a condition to that.
So you're allowed to work about 140 days in a year when you're living there. But I think, like he very clearly Saurabh said, what is your objective of going there? So if you are going to be working and delivering pizzas the whole evening, you're not going to be able to study on your own. And please understand that when you're in Germany or in Europe, when I studied there, it was quite a culture shock for me because I expected the professor to come and teach in the class. They don't. They tell you what to study. You're expected to study and come and discuss in class. You're expected to go to the lab and work in the lab. So if you are not working at home at your free time and learning and being ahead of what you're supposed to do, then you're going to find it extremely difficult, because it's very easy to probably get into the university, but to stay and come out with a degree is quite tough. I know quite a few students who are unable to make the exams because they've been doing other things rather than studying on their own and making it, because there's no spoon feeding in Europe. You're expected to study, you're expected to do your work in time, and you're expected to do your exams. Nobody is going to watch whether you're coming into class. Nobody is going to follow you up and say, have you submitted your assignments, have you taken the semester exams? They won't track you at all. You're on your own. So you have to decide whether you want to utilize that time to study, do other things, to kind of, do extracurricular activities. It's actually a beautiful time to flower into the kind of person you want to be, rather than doing menial jobs and trying to scrimp and save. That's not the objective to go there.
They don't micromanage, but they expect you to perform. They expect
They
you to
don't
deliver.
manage, even forget micromanage. They don't manage. You are on
Okay,
your own.
right, right. In a sense, US would also be like that. They have this term called hands off. So you're hands off. It's up to you. You deliver. That's your thing. How was
Absolutely.
your experience, Himanshu? You studied there.
I haven't studied there.
Okay.
I had
Okay.
just a short stay of doing a project there,
Okay.
and that experience had been great. I was in Berlin, and I was doing a translation project along with six other German students, so six Indian students and six German students, working on a translation project together. And it has been a amazing experience when it comes to culture, when it comes to uh, doing a project which is actually kind of translating not only language but also culture, nuances of one language into another. And I think that is what also helped me to learn much more and to be more confident in who I am while speaking the language.
Okay. Just can anyone tell us about the visa process? Like, for instance, you go to America, so you have to convince the visa officer that you are not going to immigrate. You don't intend staying in America forever. You need to establish that. That's the basic criteria. They also look at the caliber of your universities, more so these days. But that's the first thing they're looking at. You have enough standing here that you will return. Is that the criterion? What do you need to pass through the visa interview? Or is the admission from a university enough? How does it work?
No, of
I'll take
course not.
a,
I
I'll
think.
take a, yeah, yeah. No, no,
Please go ahead.
Anindya,
Sorry.
absolutely go. No, no, please continue. I was taking, on behalf of Himanshu, but I know Himanshu might not want to talk about visa, so I thought I'll take that for him. But Anandi, please.
I can talk about post visa once Anandi has, spoken her part.
No, I just wanted to say that we wouldn't really know what are the questions being asked by the visa officers, right? Because none of us are going through this process. One thing I would like to say, that please do not go to agents who are trying to tell you, we will get you the visa, we will get you the admission, and you pay so much. This is not the way to go for Germany. I know that for countries like US and others, you have consultants, you have agents, you have all these kind of people, and they are encouraged because that system is like that. But for Germany, it's a completely different system. It's about directly getting in contact with the university. It's about finding, and everything is on the website. So if you go to daad dot org, you'll get all the information about German universities, what are the application procedures, what you have to do, and that will give you the understanding how to approach a visa officer. If you're honest, if you put your papers there and say, this is what I'm going for, this is the application I got, they just want to know that you're really going there because you want to study and that you're going to contribute productively to that society. As long as you're not getting involved in criminal activities, you're not doing things that you're not supposed to do as a student, I do not think the visa officer is really getting after trying to hold you back. But the most important message I'd like to give students listening to this is, please do not go to agents for Germany. I've heard of a lot of people being fleeced for nothing. Please go directly. Everything is on the website, and apply directly.
So they don't care if you live forever in Germany, or at least the visa officers don't care.
No, I don't think that that is really a concept here, because they want people to come and work.
Okay.
And increasingly it's a graying society, so they are looking at people coming to work and living there at least for a few years of their life. And there is not a conscious effort to hold them back as well. If they want to come back, for example, Fraunhofer has 3% of Fraunhofer's employee base is Indians, but many of them come back, so they are alumni of Fraunhofer, and they come and work in India, and that's totally accepted because they see us as bridge to Germany, to Fraunhofer.
Himanshu has been awfully quiet. You represent a university. Tell us about this.
No, no. Actually, what Anandi said, I'd like to also add to it that do not go to agents. She's absolutely correct. And we have had cases where students actually lose their access to the admission portal because they go via agents, and then they have to prove their identity to get this access back, which is a very tedious task. And I think
Yeah.
there, students, if you know, Germany is all about being independent as a student, and being independent also starts with doing your admission independently, going to the website, checking all the information. It's everything is there. And I could see many comments about scholarships. Anandi also mentioned about daad.org. That's the website. You will get information also about scholarships, admissions, about universities, what kind of universities are there, what kind of courses they offer, and the link from their website goes to the university websites. And for example, RWTH Aachen website, you have everything also in English. All the information is there. You can read it through. You'll get most of the information. And I always say that if you don't find anything, if you have a specific question, there are also contact details mentioned where you can send an email and you'll get a reply. So it's as simple as that. And I just wanted to mention a peculiar thing that RWTH Aachen offers, but that's a post visa thing for international students. We have a foreigner registration office at our university. They have a desk at our university. So basically, if students have to extend their visas or their stay permits, they can directly go to this desk and they don't have to go to the foreigners office separately. So this is what RWTH Aachen University offers.
Okay.
So
I
I
also
best
saw
to
a
disagree
question
here.
here in the. Sorry, please go ahead.
Yeah, I best to disagree here, because I've been part of the industry for 15 years and been part of all the different destinations. So I know, there are always bad fishes, and agents been painted like, I don't want to say no words, but they've been painted like bad actors. They are few, but if especially you are exploring to go to a country, so it should start from a career counseling. It should start from a stress assessments. Then it should start from what course you are going for. Right now, of course, we are talking about Germany, and we are assuming that most of people who are logging here are already have done their research. But when I was going through the comments, there are lots of people who are asking, parents asking whether they would go to UK or other countries, and being into industry, and even I have not studied from internationally. I just did my undergrad, my exchange program from UK. So first I tell everyone. I also to go through a comment that why don't Indian university become so strong that not go abroad? And this is what we should all work for. Not everyone needs to go abroad to study. There are amazing undergrad universities in India, but when I'm coming in, if you have chosen that by probably because of career choice, probably because of optics, probably because of you want to go abroad and flaunt to your neighbor that okay, I've studied in Germany or I've studied in UK, but your reason should be clear, and basis that you should decide on a country and a course, and then if you are confused, you should definitely consult a specialist. It can be an agent, it can be a university, or it can be your some alumni who have studied from that country. Because most of us paint agents absolutely well. And I'm not into admission, so I'm not vouching for them because I get some cut or some commission. But when I'm coming there are some good authentic career counselors, and you should go to at least 3 4 of them. Then you will get
No,
so much
so there is
information
a
about.
Saurabh. There is a, I agree with you, there is a difference between an agent getting you an admission and a career counselor.
Totally, totally
Please
with you.
make that difference very clear.
Yeah,
When you
totally,
go to a
totally.
career counselor, they will tell you whether you have an aptitude for the subject you have chosen, what are the kind of opportunities different universities in different parts of the world. See, when a student is looking at Germany, that student is not looking only at Germany. The student is looking at UK, Netherlands, Germany. So actually Europe, right? It's actually most of the time US vis-a-vis Europe or other Anglo-Saxon countries like Australia, Singapore. So a counselor, career counselor can give you a very good rundown on what are the opportunities, advantages, disadvantages, particularly with your that student's background, education, qualifications, etc. But what we are referring to, Himanshu and I, and actually the ambassador has gone on an offensive on this, there are agents who are taking 20 lakhs, 18 lakhs, etc. from children and just getting them into a university that is not even charging them anything. So this is becoming rampant, and there are universities in or colleges in Germany which are not German. They're coming from Poland or some other country, and they are offering students. They're private universities, and they're charging hell of a lot. And the poor students are not clear whether this is a good university or not, and therefore they just pay that money and then they land up with a degree which is worth nothing. So therefore the differentiation is, take advice from counselors, but when applying, do the application yourself on the portal, and go ahead. And there's a very interesting question in the box which says any rankings available. See, Germany considers education as a public good, which is why it's free. Anybody should have access to it. Anybody should be across the society, you know the richest to the poorest should have access to education. So education is not a business, it's a public good. And therefore all universities are brilliant, they really have good quality courses. So rankings are something new they've come out with, but it's not as settled and scientific as in US, where all the time they are talking about what are the QS rankings, etc., etc. And definitely, there are no preferences for an IIT student from Madras, because when you apply, you are anonymous. They are looking at you from your qualifications. What have you studied? What are you capable of? And like I said, if you're writing to that university, you should say, why are you going to AWTH? RWTH? Because there is a particular professor whose work you've been reading, because RWTH is one of the best mechanical universities in Germany, because it is embedded in an innovation ecosystem like no other. And when you talk like that, the university understands you've done your research and you're serious about getting into this university.
So there are primarily it's public universities. Would you say that the top ones, big ones, are all public?
Yeah.
Okay,
Yes.
unlike in the US where some of the biggest names are private, the Ivy Leagues are private universities. Okay. Dimple Sharma, she is asking, are there Indian professors or teachers too in German universities? If yes, then in what number?
I can just say that I know one of them at my university, in RWTH Aachen University, and she has also studied in Delhi and Bombay, but then she did her PhD there, and now she's working as junior professor in our university. She's fluent in the language. She's doing a good job. She's doing her research further, and she's also teaching. But of course, if you compare it with other countries, the number of Indian professors or teachers are on the rise in German universities, but you can't compare it with countries like the UK or the US.
Yeah, I agree. I know quite a few university teachers who are Indian origin, increasingly more. Like I said, Fraunhofer has 3% of our employee base is Indians, which is a huge number. Consider 35,000 people. But yeah, that is just for data. I don't know what kind of advantage you would derive out of that.
Okay, Raghuram
Probably
Suropaneni.
they are looking to have a probably are looking to get an internship with an Indian professor, and that's a very smart hack, by the way. I mean, I always tell
Oh,
every
like that.
student that
Okay.
best
Ah,
best
okay.
jobs are on campus.
Okay.
Okay,
That's
got
a
it.
smart one. Okay. So let's look for an Indian name and try and strike up a relationship with that professor, so you may stand a better chance. Does that work, Himanshi?
Yeah. I don't know.
I don't think so. I think
Wouldn't know that.
it's actually your
It works.
academic
It works.
caliber
Trust me, it
and
works.
how you do your
It
Yeah.
research.
works.
Must. It
Yeah.
must. Actually, it's an emotional
You
connection.
Yeah, I did 20,
and
20
you
years
learn
ago. Yeah, I tried that
and
20
you
years ago. There was a South Indian
yeah,
looking
it
name. I
works.
was like,
See?
oh, South Indian. I'm going to get in touch. He
And
didn't
if you
help.
can and if you can feed them good food, it wonders.
Okay.
All right. Take some
It
mithai
could
for
be the
me.
other way around also, that they could feed you good Indian food.
Okay. Raghuram Surapaneni. How good is Germany for the VLSI industry? I know it's very specific.
Finance.
VLSI, very large scale,
Ah, BLSI. Okay. I
yeah,
thought you're talking about
integrated circuits,
BFSI.
right? Yeah, you would know.
I wouldn't know. I mean, such
Okay.
details would be difficult
Okay.
for me.
Okay. You did refer to this question, but Karthikeyan, he's asking Karthikeyan VR. Any rankings available for top masters in robotics institutes, and what is the cost of living for a master's student? Any preference available for IIT Madras graduates?
I answered that question already.
Okay.
Yeah.
So cost of living is 1,000 euros. You don't pay tuition. So 2 years you have 25,000 euros. Don't count on working and spending a lot of time earning nickels and dimes. Well, whatever the loose change in Germany. Focus on studies. You will be expected to take complete responsibility for your performance, for your growth. So the system is different. So don't waste time working. That's the advice many of the people are giving here. Um, we move on. What is the fees for MBA course in Germany? Is MBA free too? Tuition alone. You offer do German universities offer MBA?
No, so there are private universities too. I think some of the best MBAs are from the private university, actually,
Okay.
like the
Okay.
ESMP in Berlin and the European Business School.
Okay.
Their fees, you'll have to look up the website. I wouldn't be, or maybe one of them have a better answer on that. They're a bit more expensive than the public schools. Yeah, definitely.
Okay. Okay. Karthikeyan VR has another question. We did have something on social media some time back. Something went viral about some student complaining about these things. Are there any safety concerns such as discrimination? What are the accommodation options? Also, typical admission process timelines. What's the admission process? Maybe we can start from that. What is the typical admission process timeline?
See,
Can I take
most of
this?
the
Yeah,
universities.
please.
Saurabh, would you like to speak? You can,
Yeah, no,
please.
no, please continue. I read about accommodation, so I thought, okay, I become a by default answer this, but please continue and I'll join in.
See, there are two semesters, fall and spring semesters, and for that, most of the courses have their different deadlines, and one has to check on the website. Those things are very clearly mentioned in a tabular form on the website, and one could easily. We are offering 150, 160 courses in total. One can actually go on the website. It's clearly mentioned. That could be checked. Apart from that, I think accommodation options. Saurabh could cover that.
So before that, I would like to take the discrimination. So I would say I don't think there's discrimination, but I also say that, I mean, we as a human being we are all biased and we all discriminate. That's a human tendency, But if you talk about Germany as a country, as a destination, if you are not doing anything wrong in that country, and you're mixing up with locals, and for that if you're able to learn language, you have a massive advantage, right? So I don't feel, and have not heard that there is discrimination. And coming to accommodation, so there are private rooms wherein you can share your washrooms and kitchen with others. Then there's an onshore room wherein you have your own room, and your own washroom, but kitchen will be shared. Then you have studios. That means you have your own room, you have your own kitchenette and your own washroom, and you don't need to share. So, and this is how the price is. The shared private room will be cheapest, followed by onshore rooms. Then it will be studios, right? And if I take a step back, there are, as most of the countries, they are on campus, they are off campus. Most of the in Germany, like few more English speaking countries, they are still more on campus hostels, out there. But in Germany, most of the universities, especially private ones, they don't have much accommodation on their campuses. So hence, most of the people look for off-campus accommodation. And there's off-campus accommodation, and there's organized accommodation, and there's unorganized. It's like you have hostels, what we call it PBSA, purpose-built student accommodation, and then you have non-PBSA or unorganized accommodation like PGs and private apartments in India. So these are the categories, and these are the types of rooms, and accordingly the price differ. The prices will be anywhere in the range from 400, 600 to 600, 800 to 800 to 1200, depend upon you're looking for studio, or you're okay with on-site rooms, or probably you are okay with private room shared with other students. One request to everyone who's looking to go to Germany or even international: the way you start looking for your admission process, the moment you decide on which country or which city you're going, alongside your admission process, you should also start looking for accommodation. Don't keep it till the last minute, because accommodation is equally important, if of course not more important than admission.
Yes, totally.
Okay. Shivam Allimatti. How can a student who's done mechanical engineering in India get a job there? Without experience, can you just land up in Germany and try and get a job? Is that even possible? Are they even
Talking to
looking
this Johnson Carter, right? I mean, there's this job card right now.
at?
So you
Okay.
have to apply for that. And if you have the qualifications and if there is a demand for your kind of qualifications, then you can, of course, and you can land up there and you have a one whole year to look and
Right.
search for a job, even
Right.
learn the language, and you're paid for it. So, yes.
Anandi, this is my question. There's a question, and this is from Anandi and towards Himanshu. I've been hearing lots of parents and students coming to us, and we're not in admission, disclaimer, asking about Ausbildung, and especially undergrad students. What's your view on that for Ausbildung?
Sorry, I didn't
What
get
I
that
don't know how we,
acoustically.
I don't know how we call it. It's Ausbildung. Is it the right word?
Ausbildung.
Ausbildung, yeah,
Yeah.
training.
So is it a good option for undergrad students right after 12th? Because when I got to know and I was reading, I find it really interesting, that you are getting skilled, you are getting paid, you are getting to study there, and because you are going young, you know, you also have a high chance of probably, settling there, getting a PR and probably a good job, and overall, a better living style or lifestyle, which probably most of the Indian students aspire to when they look to go abroad. Would love to know more about from you guys. Sorry if I'm asking. I mean, sorry,
No,
sir, I'm
it's
asking
fine.
like a student, but lots of students and parents are asking this to me.
Yeah, Himanshu, would you like to go first? And then I can say what little bit I know.
uh, I also not I cannot comment too much on it, but what I can say is that Germany has been pioneering in vocational training, and this is part of vocational training that you call Ausbildung, and we have to segregate it from the university education. So there are vocational training, and then there is university education. And for vocational training, of course, as Saurabh you mentioned, that you're being paid on job. So basically, you're earning also and you're learning also, and that would give you a financial stability, plus it will give you a job also in the same industry where you are doing this training. But I also want to mention that this will not give you a university degree. This will give you a vocational training sort of a certification. Anandi, I'm sure you would know better, you can add on it.
No, I just wanted to say that I don't know the process because there are now, it's a very developing field and there are a lot of new processes that are coming in from the German perspective because they really need semi-skilled and skilled labor. But Germany is one of the pioneers in training at shop floor. So today, some of the CEOs that you see in companies actually did not go first to the university, but first went to the shop floor, did this training, and then went to study further. So this kind of a system is very unique, where you first learn hands-on, and then you move to, in case you want to pursue an education, or you just continue in that skilled, and they are paid very very well. In fact, some of the skilled labor who have done such Ausbildung get much more than your managers and upwards of that, right? So one would have to really research on that a little bit. I'm sorry, I don't have all the details, But as a prospect, I think it's a very good idea. If you're not particular about going into higher education, research, etc., MA, MSc, doc, postdoc, this is an outstanding line to go.
But is it safe considering that right 18, 19 year old people are going? Is it safe? And this is where do you believe that lots of Indians have been taken for a ride? They go to these agents and probably, I mean, this is what been happening because again, I'm also not expert for German as a country, so I'm as curious as other people who have joined to learn because you both are expert for Germany education ecosystem. But I've been getting lots of people talking about this house building, sorry,
Yeah.
I have tried my level best to learn this, but house building, something like this. But when I got to know this concept, I would have known this when I was in my schooling. I would have definitely explored this because you learn a skill, you are getting decently paid, and you're also getting a visa, which is comparatively the streamline is better. Is that the right assumption or right the way I'm being perceived?
Look, I don't have the details, and I'm sure Himanshu also doesn't have the details on Ausbildung because this is not our area. But I think it's a very valid and good question, and we should research on this and have another session with experts, maybe even from the German embassy. We can check out if it is possible because I think it's a great line. Because I know quite a few people. In fact, in Coimbatore, there is a center for vocational training run by an Indian who did his training in this form in Germany. So this is actually a very well known and set process in Germany, particularly in the manufacturing sector. So let us really explore this, and if you think there's a lot of interest from India on this line of training, we should have a more informed discussion on it.
Certainly, certainly. Sounds very interesting that we talk so much about skilling, but Germany has a really, it's a success story in skilling, right, at
Yeah,
various
it's called
levels.
apprenticeship, and it's very very uh, extremely well. It's a good qualification. It's like your ITIs, but
Right.
very high level.
Right. I mean, I've seen that generally in Europe, chief engineer level, they start with the lowest. I mean, so they do from the skilled one and then move up and become chief engineers. Their
No, I know
knowledge is
CEOs of companies who have started with an apprenticeship
yeah, and
and
then
then
knowledge is
moved on to
more rounded.
education. So
Certainly,
yeah,
certainly,
yeah.
certainly worth considering. We do have. I just have two questions. How's the weather like during the year, various regions, and what is the typical student mix? With that, we'll close this webinar.
Uh,
How's the weather like in Germany? Is it always cold? In various regions,
uh,
east, west, whatever.
I can just say, first of all, about the student mix. So basically, at AWT Aachen, AWT Aachen University, we have 15,000 national students, and out of those, 2,400 are Indians. And then there are also other South Asian students and students from other countries. So this is the kind of mix. And one good thing is that we have also a strong student association, Indian Student Association. It's called Association of Indian Students Aachen. And they also celebrate festivals. They have many programs. They also have a support system in place for incoming Indian students, apart from, of course, the support system that university offers. That is what I can talk about the university and the mix of students. And when it comes to weather, summers are amazing. Uh, if you are in southern Germany, then it will be better in winters. In northern Germany, it's pretty cold. Maybe Anandi could add further from her experience.
She had to drop off, but yes, but it is north of the, it is in the northern hemisphere. You should expect
Yeah.
cold weather. All right, though we've run out of time, we've answered almost all the questions. Very interesting, important takeaways: the stress on vocationalization, the stress on self-study, the stress on Germany. That the tuition is free, and then you have a certain amount of you reserve, or you keep aside a certain amount of money for your living expenses. And Germany is expecting there's probably a segue towards employment jobs too. It certainly sounds more attractive, but you need to learn German, although it's not a requirement for academics, but you're better off learning German. That's an important takeaway. With that, we close this webinar. We'll meet again next Saturday, same time, another topic, 5 p.m. for another education webinar. Thank you.